Hi everyone, I'm going to talk about the film Black Dragons, which is an American film produced in 1942 starring Bela Lugosi. Lugosi plays the role of a brilliant scientist called Melcher, who is hired by the Society of Black Dragons in Japan, which is, by the way, a society that seems to have existed in real life, so he could perform plastic surgeries on 6 Japanese conspirators so they could look alike 6 American leaders, and those 6 American leaders would be murdered and those Japanese guys would replace them. So it would be something to help the Japanese war effort. This Melcher scientist, he was from Nazi Germany, and then he performed the plastic surgery in those 6 Japanese citizens. The American ones were indeed murdered, and then they replaced those American guys. However, after Melcher finished his plastic surgery on the 6 guys, he was arrested. He was supposed to be imprisoned for a long time, so this secret would die with him. But Melcher got to escape, and then he approached those 6 American leaders who were actually the Japanese men he operated, and he killed one by one. Before I move on with the plot, I must tell you that this film was produced just some months after Pearl Harbor attack, which happened in December 1941, and many Americans died in this attack. So of course that it is a very propaganda film, anti-Japanese war effort. It's a kind of plot that didn't age well because it inevitably talks in a bad way about other countries, other ethnicities, and in the society we currently live in, there's no space anymore to talk bad about any other nationality, group, religion, etc. But it was another era, and we must take into account the context of World War II. Okay, so at first, Melcher, using another name, he was in a gathering in the house of a guy. He got to hypnotize this guy so he would act according to his wishes. This guy had a butler and a niece who arrived there, and they wanted to talk to the owner of the house, but they couldn't. He said to everyone that he was locked in his bedroom, that he was sick and didn't want to see anyone. However, those people who were supposed to be American but actually Japanese, they started to be murdered. And of course, the police was involved. And the police realized that everyone who was murdered, they were murdered right after a gathering in the house of this guy, who was locked in his room, hypnotized by Melcher, and no one could see him. And a policeman was there. He got suspicious. We get to find out that his niece wasn't around for some years, and then Melcher moved into the house without further explanation. And then in the end of the film, of course that it became impossible to hide who Melcher really was. The police eventually got to remove the owner of the house out of his bedroom, and his face was covered. Then he told everyone what happened, and then he said that Melcher deformed his face so he could have a monstrous look. And then Melcher fought with the policeman, and then he ended up dying in this fight. And this is how the film ends. The film lasts just slightly longer than 1 hour. It's very straightforward, and it's, as I have said, it's very much according to the era it was produced. We can have the beautiful acting of Bela Lugosi, he was a little bit stagey and stiffy in his acting, okay, but it's a classic. It's a low-budget film. We need to take that into consideration. So there are some problems in plot development and scenery that probably we wouldn't have if the film was made by a major studio. And it's still an interesting film, even though it's quite out of date nowadays. Even though we can see that there aren't many production resources in this film, it's nice as the witnesses of an era. And that, of course, the attacks to Pearl Harbor caused lots of disgust in the United States, because after all, thousands of soldiers died, many parents lost their sons, many wives got widowed, many people lost their fathers. And yes, it's an anti-Nazi, anti-Japanese war effort. And if for you there's anything bad about any ethnicity, don't pay attention. It's another era, and thank goodness it's better right now. That's all for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you!